I'm here in Auburn, Indiana right now to show you one of my favorite cars of all time, the C4 ZR1. You guys know I'm a huge C4 guy, and the ZR1's the best one of them all. So come with me, let's take a look around this car, and then the Worldwide guys are actually gonna let me take this thing out on the street. Let's check out the ZR1. So first and foremost, if you're not familiar with what the difference between a regular C4 and a ZR1 are, well, visually, not a whole lot, but underneath the skin of this car, it is a completely different car. In fact, they didn't even build these on the same assembly line as the regular C4, despite how similar they look. I'll show you the differences as we go around. But this car is entirely engineered differently than the regular Corvette. The chassis was designed by Lotus. The engine was actually made by Mercury Marine, and it's the first Corvette that featured a dual overhead cam design, something they didn't even go back to until very recently with the C8 Z06 and C8 ZR1. So this was a radical departure from the normal C4, which was already a crazy car at the time. And what's even crazier though is the price. So again, looks like a normal C4, totally not. No, this is a C4 ZR1, and it's not a totally separate model like it is now. No, the ZR1 was an option back on the C4 order sheet. So what you got, your normal C4, blah, 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 it would end up being about $35,000 in 1991, as is the case with this car. And then if you wanted it to be a ZR1, it was a $35,000 option. The ZR1 package doubled the price of the Corvette. So needless to say, they didn't sell a whole lot of them because people would look at them and be like, it looks the same. Why am I gonna pay $70,000 for something that could be $35,000? Well, like I said, this is not a regular C4. So let's take a look around and let's get this thing out on the street. First and foremost, from the front, practically identical. But as you start to move around, you start to see the little differences that make a ZR1 a ZR1. Namely, back here. And again, I'm looking at this car and touching it in real life, and it's very hard for me to see. But this car is a full 3 inches wider than the standard C4. And they did it without fender flares or anything that they would do now. They just molded the body to be slowly wider as you came back here. And the only visual cue is this. There's an actual recess in the rear wheel because these are actually 315 size compared to the 275s that are on the standard C4. So quite a bit wider and quite a bit more meat in the rear. Moving around, you can't really tell again because this was the first year, 1991, where they were rounded in the front and the back. There's a little tiny badge right here, and you had quad tips rather than 2 rectangular tips in the normal car. The only other way you can tell a ZR1 externally from a normal C4 is that the ZR1s all have a 3rd brake light up here. The normal C4 had the 3rd brake light right here. Now, I don't know why they did that, but that's the way you can tell if you have a ZR1. But imagine being in 1991 and paying double the price of your neighbor just to have a 3rd brake light. Well, as we keep going here, you'll see that's not the case. Moving up front to the main part of the show here is under this massive clamshell hood. Okay, there we go. Is the big difference. See, this looks nothing like the LT1, or actually in this case it would have been an L98 since this is a 91. This is the LT5, and as you can see, it's a 4-cam, 32 valve, dual overhead cam V8, which I guess I said with the 4-cam part. But this is a monster of an engine producing 375 horsepower compared to the 250 you were getting in the L98 in this case. Now, later years, 92 and up, they made 300 horsepower in the base car, but you were still getting so much more power in the ZR1. Way wider wheels, totally different suspension geometry. It's, like I said, practically a different car that they somehow managed to look identical to the normal C4. Inside, the only other telltale sign that it's a ZR1 at all, if you see here, if you look right in front of the shifter, this has a key that says power. And you literally can change the amount of power this car has with the flick of a button. In normal mode, I think it's like 300 or something like that, but you twist it and it unlocks full power. Now, the idea here was kind of like an early version of the Bugatti speed key, where if you just hopped in it, you didn't get crazy power, but if you turned it to full power, you would. And of course, this key is also removable, so it's kind of like a physical valet key, if you think about it. It's a really neat feature, but again, the only thing that differentiates the ZR1 apart from the normal C4. Now, this is a 1991, so all of this dash and everything was new across the board, but the poor people who ordered a regular C4 in 1991 got an all new looking car with the same old engine. Now in 92 they updated it, but we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about the ZR1. And to properly understand that, I need to get on this side of the car so we can get this thing outside and let her rip. Out in the wild with a C4 ZR1. Now this is one of my childhood dream cars, and I say that because I grew up with the ZR1, or the C4 Corvette in general, being the new Corvette. So these were the ones that I always thought were the coolest because I was at that moldable age. That, and I grew up with my dad having a few, and then now I've had one since I was 17, not a ZR1 though. So this is something I always remember, oh man, that was so cool, my dad had one when I was 5. So it's just been a superhero car to me. So now getting actually to spend some time in one, be around one, and this one's perfect. It has 10,000 miles on it. So needless to say, it's pretty fresh. These cars were very ahead of their time, both engineering, both mechanically and electronically. I mean, I have adjustable suspension in 1991. It basically goes from hard to harder, but still, even the target top, that was new for the C4. Before they had a T-bar in there, and that just didn't look as cool. No, this isn't as structurally sound, but it looks way cooler. And it's just awesome to be out here. Now, the real test is to see if I can feel the ZR1 difference between my normal LT1 car and this LT5 car. And to do that, I'm gonna pull out onto the street here. My cameraman is desperately putting on his seatbelt. And we'll roll into it. Let's just see here. Oh, yeah. There we go. I got into its stride there. I think it's a little low on fuel, but the way C4s build, it's very interesting. This engine revs a lot higher than the LT1, so let's try that again. Oh yeah, that is quite a bit faster. I think we just lost some paperwork. But that is quite a bit faster than a normal C4. Of course, I do have the keys in full mode, but wowie. This thing, it gets going after it got over its fuel starvation issue. Now we're in it. Oh, it's so good. Oh my, I mean, I know you're probably just hearing wind noise, but it builds power in such a different way than all of the regular C4s I've ever driven. Holy smokes. I could do that all day. And then the gears are so tall, we're going, you know, whatever, you put it in 6th, and we're turning less than 1,500 RPMs. You know, these cars actually famously get good gas mileage, you know, just like any Corvette does. It really, they can do it all. Yes, the chassis is a little floppy, especially with the top off, but I don't know, I think that's part of the charm. Now, GoPro just fell. That's how extreme this thing is. See, look, we're safe. Oh, there's a banana peel on the road. It was almost like Mario Kart. Oh my goodness. Yeah, to say this thing lived up to all of my dreams is pretty accurate. I mean, I'm taking these turns. I know the gimbal's gonna have me working for it here, but these are quite the cars. I think you can really tell the difference between those wide tires at the back too. This thing is, these rule. These are a performance bargain. I really do have a strong feeling once people realize how special and how rare these cars are. After this year, they built less than 500 per year. So these are going to be a future blue chip collectible Corvette. I think people just haven't realized it yet. All right, we'll get it back to the hangar. I don't wanna. All right, so that is the C4 Corvette ZR1, a literal childhood dream car for me, realized thanks to Worldwide Auctioneers. These opportunities are just incredible to be able to drive these amazing cars. And honestly, look at some of the cars I've been driving this week. We've made videos on each one of these. A Di Tommaso Pantera, a very early Lamborghini Diablo, one of my favorites, the Mercedes-Benz McLaren SLR. I can barely spit it out because I'm so excited. And then that, a very special Ferrari 512M, a Ferrari you might not have ever even heard of. There's also a Shelby Series 1 in the corner there. But anyway, thank you guys for watching. Be sure to tune in to Worldwide's channel at the end of April when all of these cars are going to be going across the block. I'll be there making more videos, and I'll be live the entire time doing commentary, driving cars across the block. It's always a great time. Please show support to Worldwide because, well, they sure as heck are showing support to me. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys on the next video.